Hello. In 2008, a 16-year-old girl went missing in New York City. The police launched an investigation and found traces of her at a pork butcher shop in Queens. For a long time afterwards, people fell into a state of panic and fear whenever they saw meat. There were rumors that the young girl was a prostitute who had been brutally murdered, dismembered, and buried in pork meat to be sold at the market. Why was the young girl killed? How did the story unfold? Let's go back in time to April 29, 2008. On Tuesday, April 29, 2008, at the police station in Queens, a mother and daughter named Johnson appeared with worried looks on their faces to file a report. Mrs. Johnson said her youngest daughter, Emily Johnson, 16 years old, had been missing for 3 days. At first, the family thought she was just hanging out at a friend's house, but they still couldn't contact her, so they wanted the police's help to search for her. The older sister, Sarah, who came with her mother to report, added, "On the evening of April 26th, at 11 p.m., my sister and I were still talking happily at home. Then we each went to our rooms to rest. Nothing unusual happened. But the next morning, I didn't see my sister anywhere. I don't know when she left the house or where she went." The family said Emily had once slept over at her boyfriend's house, but after breaking up, she hardly ever stayed out overnight. Even when she occasionally came home late, she would always notify the family in advance. A disappearance lasting several days like this had never happened before. After completing the report at the police station, the mother and daughter returned home. Missing person cases like this were not uncommon, especially for teenagers of this age. The police officially recorded the case as a missing person and assigned it to the Missing Persons Unit of Queens to follow up. The missing person's name was Emily Johnson, originally from Columbia, South Carolina. She was the second child in the family with an older sister, Sarah, who was 3 years older. Both sisters took their mother's surname, Johnson. When Emily was 3 years old, her parents divorced due to conflicts. Her mother remarried a 50-year-old New Yorker named Davis. The stepfather was a lazy man with no job. Apart from having U.S. citizenship, Emily felt he had nothing for her mother to value. In 2000, Emily's mother brought Sarah to New York City to settle, leaving Emily behind. Some said she stayed in her hometown in Columbia, while others said she was sent to live in Atlanta. In any case, Emily had spent a lonely childhood. In 2005, at the age of 14, she was finally brought to New York to reunite with her mother and sister, as well as the stepfather she barely knew. The family's financial situation was not good. Her mother had to make a living by cupping therapy. When Emily first set foot in New York, looking at the bustling city and its pace, she was very excited. Her mother enrolled her at 8 Languages Middle School, where her sister Sarah was also studying. Emily was an excellent student. In 8th grade, she won the Cerebrum Award, an award for students who achieve excellence in at least one of 3 subjects: math, Chinese, and English. She also won prizes in Mandarin and English expressive reading competitions and received school scholarships for 2 consecutive years. However, Emily's relationships with friends and teachers were not good. In the eyes of her peers, she was introverted, stubborn, and taciturn. Outside of school, her relationship with her stepfather was also very bad. They often argued. In 2007, Emily signed up for a modeling course outside of school. However, due to her average appearance and physique, she received almost no invitations for photo shoots. She lied to her family that she was working as a model's assistant, earning about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. However, she quit the job not long after. Emily liked to beautify herself, liked makeup and pretty clothes. She often shared clothes and shoes with her sister. The 2 sisters even signed up for a makeup course together, studying 3 times a week. In January 2008, perhaps wanting to help the family reduce their financial burden, Emily, who was in 10th grade at the time, told her family she wanted to drop out of school. Despite her mother and sister's best efforts to dissuade her, she remained adamant in her decision, saying, "Studying too much is useless anyway." Eventually, Emily dropped out of school and stepped into society. She began to indulge in debauchery, frequently visiting entertainment spots and associating with all kinds of people. Sometimes, she even stayed out overnight without coming home. After the case occurred, the police went to Emily's apartment in Flushing to investigate. This was a social housing complex provided by the New York City government for low-income people, where many new immigrants lived. Emily lived in an apartment in the Harmony building. The police checked the browsing history on the computer in Emily's bedroom and discovered that she was a prostitute. She had registered an account on an adult forum, posted many provocative photos, and publicly listed her service prices. Additionally, she used 2 MSN accounts to communicate with clients. Records showed that on April 13th, Emily had posted on the forum and went out to meet clients late at night. More than a week later, someone left a comment rating her service. Sometimes she also provided companion services like going out for nightlife or shopping with clients. Contacting strangers always carries many risks. No one could guarantee Emily's safety based on her social relationships. The police believed she might be in danger after several days of disappearance. Emily's family knew nothing about her prostitution. Her sister Sarah told the police that she and Emily were very close and often confided in each other. However, she didn't know when Emily's mood started to become gloomy, as if she was hiding something unhappy inside. Gradually, Sarah noticed that her sister was associating with many new friends outside of society, ranging in age from 20 to 50. Emily often talked on the phone with others at night, sometimes even staying out overnight. When the family asked, she just said she was dating a boyfriend, but never brought him home. Sarah knew her sister often used MSN to chat with people, but she couldn't believe her sister would do such things. Normally, Emily just browsed beauty websites and occasionally went to karaoke. After investigating Emily's relationships, the police were concerned for her safety. The case was quickly reported in the press to seek clues from witnesses. On May 4th, a man named Adam came to the police station. He said he had met Emily before. Adam was a programmer and could be considered a regular client of Emily's. In April 2008, Adam saw Emily's information on the forum and arranged to meet her on April 20th. He paid $1,500 for that meeting. After that encounter, they became closer and often chatted online. A few days later, Adam wanted to meet Emily again. He called her, and in the early morning of April 27th, they met at the Flushing subway station. That evening, Emily wore a black outfit and carried a yellow bag. Then they went to a nearby hotel. When they entered the room, Emily looked tired, so Adam didn't have sex with her. They lay on the bed talking and then fell asleep. The next morning at 9 a.m., they left the hotel in Flushing and said goodbye. This time, Adam paid Emily $2,000 and arranged to meet her again next time. Adam said that after that day, whether through MSN or phone calls, he couldn't contact Emily until May 4th, when he saw the news about Emily's disappearance in the newspaper. Adam realized something was wrong and immediately reported to the police. The day Emily disappeared was the same day she left the hotel with Adam, and Adam was also the last person known to have met Emily. Therefore, Adam naturally became a suspect. However, after investigation, the police confirmed Adam's statement was true, so they removed suspicion of him. According to Adam, that night in the hotel room, Emily confided in him that she wanted to make money so her mother could have a better life. Emily had been scammed by a modeling company. Not only did she not make money, but she also owed the company $50,000. Later, Emily had gradually paid back over $50,000. But on the evening of April 26, the modeling company called again, demanding she pay an additional $10,000 in interest before May. If not, they would publicize that she had worked for the company and threatened to release sensitive videos of her online. Driven into a corner, Emily had to take on many clients to earn money to pay off the debt. The police speculated that after parting with Adam, Emily had gone to meet another client, and this person might be related to her disappearance. Checking Emily's call logs, the police discovered that the last call she made was at 1:45 p.m. on April 27th at the Flushing subway station. The call lasted 53 seconds. The number on the other end was a prepaid number with no registered identity. According to Emily's MSN chat history, at 9:16 a.m. on April 27th, someone had arranged to meet her at the Flushing subway station at 1 p.m. that day. This person had instructed Emily to call when she arrived, and then they would come to the subway station to pick her up. The phone number this person left matched the number Emily had called last. Through the IP address, the police traced the MSN message from this person to a computer in the Human Development Building on Stonebridge Avenue, not far from the Flushing subway station. A week later, on May 6th, a 30-year-old man named Brian came to the police station to report with a panicked expression. Brian stated that Emily might have been killed by his friend, Jason Thompson, 24 years old. Brian and Jason had become friends 10 years ago when they both worked at a night food stall. Although they later no longer worked together, the two still kept in touch regularly. Brian said that on the evening of April 26th, he and Jason had arranged to go out to a bar in Jamaica. Jason not only drank alcohol, but also used ecstasy. The two stayed at the bar until 7 a.m. the next morning before leaving. On the evening of April 27th, between 9:25 p.m. and 11:25 p.m., Brian received 3 consecutive calls from Jason. On the phone, Jason said he had killed a girl. Jason recounted that while having sex with the girl, she kept saying she wanted to die. For some unknown reason, he strangled the girl to death. Then he dismembered the body to dispose of it. He also described that there was a lot of fat inside the girl's body and said he didn't want to see the girl's face, so he skinned her face. The victim's bones were hidden by him in a pig bone container at a pork butcher shop. Jason's call terrified Brian. However, he still didn't believe his friend had killed someone and just thought Jason was talking nonsense after using ecstasy. Afterwards, the two met a few more times. Jason insisted that what he said on the phone was just a joke. However, in recent days, Brian had been haunted by this. Then, when he saw the news about Emily's disappearance, Brian noticed that the victim's characteristics and the time of disappearance matched what Jason had said on the phone. Brian began to suspect and decided to report to the police. Based on Brian's statement, the police determined that Emily's disappearance was not simple. The case was transferred to the Western Queens Homicide Unit for further investigation. According to the investigation, Jason's address matched the IP address that the police had traced from the MSN messages earlier. That evening, the homicide unit staked out the Human Development Building where Jason lived. Jason's apartment was in the Prosperity complex of this building. At 11 p.m., Jason appeared in the darkness. The police immediately rushed in to subdue and escort him to the police station. During the interrogation, Jason confessed to an accomplice, his friend named William, saying this person had helped him dispose of the body. The police also arrested William. The police searched Jason's apartment in the Human Development Building. In the bathroom, on the floor, walls, door frames, and bathtub, there was still blood that hadn't been cleaned thoroughly. Blood traces were also found on the computer desk, chairs, and carpet in the bedroom. Even a CD in the disk drive was stained with blood. DNA test results showed that all the blood traces belonged to Emily. Clearly, this apartment was the scene of the murder. During the interrogation, Jason confessed to killing Emily and dumping her body into the sea near the Queens Ferry Terminal. At 8 a.m. the next morning, a group of police officers escorted Jason to the scene where he had disposed of the body, near the Queens Ferry Terminal waterfront. At 3 p.m., divers had dived twice into the sea to search but found nothing. At this point, Jason confessed that he had dismembered Emily, only throwing her head into the sea. The other body parts had been cut into small pieces and flushed down the toilet. Some bone fragments were brought by him to a pork butcher shop on Stonebridge Avenue and mixed with pork meat. The killer's confession shocked the police. Since the incident had occurred more than 10 days ago, some bone fragments might have already been sold to customers. After the case was publicized, it shocked public opinion. The information that Jason had thrown human flesh into a pork butcher shop caused great panic among local residents. Rumors spread online that Emily had come to the Human Development Building on the day of the incident to participate in a group sex party with Jason and some others. Due to Emily's habit of using ecstasy before having sex, she had overdosed, leading to her death. To escape punishment, Jason and William had dismembered the victim's body, disposing of it in the sea and at the butcher shop. However, after investigation, the police confirmed this information was inaccurate. At the time of the incident, William had a reliable alibi. William was not involved in the case and did not help Jason dispose of the body, as Jason had initially claimed. After further investigation, the police were able to somewhat clarify the sequence of events in the case. Early that morning, after leaving the bar at 7 a.m., Jason continued to use ecstasy. When he got home, he still felt excited and couldn't close his eyes. In his drug-induced state, Jason contacted Emily. After 1 p.m., they met. Jason brought Emily back to his apartment. They both used ecstasy and then had sex. Around 3 p.m., Jason woke up. He was shocked to find Emily lying motionless on the bed, her mouth foaming with blood, her body cold. She was dead. Jason realized he had killed someone, but couldn't remember the exact details, only thinking that he had strangled the victim for about 1 to 2 minutes. Initially, Jason was very scared when faced with Emily's death. But after only 5 to 10 minutes of panic, a plan to dismember and dispose of the body flashed in his mind. Jason chose to dismember the body because he thought it would be harder to detect that way. He spent 6 hours dismembering the body. Just draining the blood took 10 to 15 minutes. During the process of handling the body, he found that skinning and deboning at the same time was very difficult. So he came up with the idea of skinning first and then deboning, similar to how people butcher pigs. To avoid clogging the toilet, he cut the body into small pieces and divided them to flush multiple times. When dealing with fingers and toes, each time he discarded one, he would flush once to ensure they were all washed away. At 10 p.m., Jason began to deal with the bones that couldn't be flushed down the toilet, such as arm bones, leg bones, and spine. He decided to remove all the flesh, making them no longer resemble human bones, to easily bury them in pork meat later. Then he took the victim's head on a bus to the Queens Ferry Terminal and threw it into the sea. Besides the head that was disposed of in the sea, the remaining 10 parts of the body were divided by Jason into 2 portions and thrown into the pork butcher shop on Stonebridge Avenue. Before being arrested, Jason had been living normally, eating, drinking, and having fun. During this time, he called Brian several times, and it was these actions that helped the police find him. The police asked Jason if he had ever worked in jobs related to anatomy or selling pork, or if he had rehearsed the dismemberment process, but he denied all of these. Every step Jason took was carefully calculated. Even the reason why he took the victim's head on a bus to dispose of it and then took another bus home had its logic. He believed that taking a bus would be less likely to be checked by the police, minimizing the risk to the lowest level. After Jason was arrested, psychiatrists from Green Mountain Hospital came to examine him. Jason revealed that he had been treated for mental illness at the age of 8, started buying prostitutes at 16, used ecstasy since late 2001, and viewed pornographic websites since 2002. Some experts pointed out that if Jason's confession was true, he might have suffered from automatism caused by ecstasy. Automatism is a special form of epilepsy, manifested as simple or complex involuntary, unconscious actions occurring during or after an epileptic seizure when the patient is in a dazed state and has no memory of those actions. However, according to the director of the Addiction Treatment Center at the hospital, no medical literature has recorded cases where ecstasy abuse could cause automatism. Jason's inability to remember the killing process could be a lie. During the dismemberment process, small body parts were flushed down the toilet many times. Wastewater from the building passed through the Longwood pump station and several sewage tanks, then was transferred to the Oak Point wastewater treatment plant. This plant processes millions of cubic meters of wastewater daily for the Bronx and Queens areas. The treated wastewater is then discharged into the sea. These facilities operate 24/7. Searching for body parts in this complex wastewater system is like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, recently, some residents living near the crime scene reported the appearance of a foul odor, similar to dead rats, coming from the drainage of a real estate company and a jeans store on the ground floor of the building. Upon receiving the report, the police contacted the Department of Environmental Protection to coordinate the investigation. On May 8th, DP staff conducted a search for body parts in the sewer system and some manholes near the crime scene. When tapping on a drainage pipe, they detected an unusual sound, suspecting there might be something inside. The next evening, they made a breakthrough discovery. From the sludge dredged up from the manhole, they found more than 20 pieces of flesh suspected to be human. Subsequent DNA test results confirmed that these flesh pieces belonged to Emily. As for the victim's head, although the police had expanded the search area under the sea near the Queens Ferry Terminal, they still couldn't find any results. The defendant's name is Jason Thompson, nicknamed Fat Jason, 24 years old, 5'10" tall, weighing 209 pounds. Born in New York City, he was the second child in a family of 4 siblings. Jason was a rebellious child who often caused trouble and got into fights. At the age of 5, during a family trip to Florida, Jason was involved in a serious traffic accident. The accident caused him brain trauma, and he had to witness his mother's death. After the accident, his maternal family blamed Jason's father for causing his mother's death. 2 years later, Jason's father remarried, and the family moved to live in South Village. The stepmother and stepchildren lived quite harmoniously together. At the age of 8, due to his hot temper and learning difficulties, Jason was taken by his family to the hospital for a psychological examination. After being diagnosed with emotional disorder, Jason was sent to a special school for children with disabilities. At 15, for the crime of assault, Jason was sent to a juvenile correctional facility for psychological counseling. Jason dropped out of school in 6th grade. After that, he worked as a delivery person for a night food stall and also did air conditioning installation work with his cousin at a construction site. Attracted by the outside world, Jason gradually fell into bad habits. He once took drugs to the point of vomiting and nosebleeds, but liked the excitement that these drugs brought. Jason plunged into a debauched lifestyle. Even when he had a girlfriend, he still liked to wander around looking for prostitutes. According to the night food stall owner where Jason used to work, his income at that time was over $4,000. He only worked for half a year before quitting. With his bleached yellow hair and fat body, people called him Fat Jason. Jason often bragged about his fun times with prostitutes. He also got into fights with others over money issues. His behavior was no different from that of a hooligan. Some former colleagues said that Jason was a boastful, lazy person who only wanted to enjoy life. He spent money like water and then turned to borrowing from friends. Jason always wanted to make quick money. He once borrowed $60,000 from a finance company and spent it all in a short time. Then he continued to borrow another $200,000 from this company. Unable to repay the debt, Jason was visited by debt collectors at his home. Finally, he had to move to avoid the debt. In the eyes of Brian, his close friend, Jason was a clever person but had a hot temper, easily irritated, and often swore. In June 2007, Jason, then 23 years old, rented an apartment on the 2nd floor of the Human Development Building on Stonebridge Avenue for $2,000 a month. Later, this apartment became the horrific crime scene a year later. 1 year after the incident occurred, in July 2009, the trial for the case was opened at the New York Supreme Court. The defendant, Jason Thompson, was charged with murder and obstructing the lawful burial of a corpse. At the trial, the defendant, Jason Thompson, pleaded guilty to his criminal acts. After 6 days of trial, the court delivered its verdict. The defendant, Jason Thompson, was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. For the crime of obstructing the lawful burial of a corpse, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The total sentence was life imprisonment plus 5 years. In the same year, in November, Brian, the close friend who had reported Jason Thompson's crime and helped the police solve the case, was invited to attend the 2009 Outstanding Citizen Award ceremony. When receiving the Outstanding Citizen Award, Brian was very emotional. He was the only one receiving the award who didn't feel happy. Brian shared, "My feelings are very complicated. He," referring to Jason Thompson, "really did kill someone. Sometimes I still can't believe it." In 2015, the movie Port of Call, adapted from this case, was released and once again stirred up waves of debate in public opinion. The case still has some unanswered questions. Did Jason Thompson really commit the crime in an unconscious state? If not, what was his motive for murder? Perhaps only Jason Thompson himself knows the truth. The Emily Johnson case closed, leaving New York City residents with endless shock and haunting. The image of the schoolgirl with a bright smile and aspirations for a better life was forever frozen in that cold apartment. Her unjust death is a warning about the traps lurking in a prosperous society where neon lights cannot cover all the dark corners. Jason Thompson must pay for his brutal crime behind bars. But what sentence can soothe the pain and loss of Emily Johnson's family? This heartbreaking story is also an earnest message to every family. Love, understand, and be tolerant of your children more. For only love has enough power to guide young souls through temptations towards a brighter future. Perhaps, somewhere in heaven, Emily Johnson will find peace and liberation from those exhausting days of struggling in life. Today's video ends here, and we'll see you in the next videos. Goodbye.